Thank you for coming to Scituate's Bands Off Our Bodies. There are over 450 marches and rallies going on today around the country. My name is Freya Schlegel, and I would like to remind you all that we're here together in peace and unity and respect. We have a great group of volunteers here who, after hearing the call to action, put this together in just 1 week so we can stand up for our abortion rights. Thank you to them. Thank you to the town of Scituate for permitting us to gather. We could all use more than a moment of silence right now, but let's take a moment to raise our vibrations higher. Send some peace and strength and hope out to people who have made this choice specifically. We honor you. Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker, Nicole Huberfeld, professor at Boston University School of Law and Public Health.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be with all of you today to commemorate this really important moment. I expect some of you are here maybe because you're feeling very afraid. I suspect there's a second category of you who are here because something's lit a fire under you. And I imagine there might be a third category of you who are here because you're not really sure how you should feel in this moment. And so I'm hoping that I can address all three categories of people and anyone else who might be here by talking a little bit about what is happening in this moment in terms of the law. And so to be clear and to address the fears of the people who are here, nothing about the law has changed at this time. Let's just put a hat on that. So even though there is a draft opinion of a Supreme Court decision in the Dobbs case, this is how the Supreme Court justices actually communicate with one another. They draft opinions, share them with one another, convince one another through writing, and then rewrite again. And so there is no indication that this is the final decision, and if anybody has questions about how the Supreme Court operates, I'm certainly happy to have some Q&A about that offline after, because I have a limited amount of time now. But the thing to understand is that it is exceedingly rare for a draft opinion to be leaked, and it could have been leaked for a variety of reasons. It could have been leaked because people wanted to sound alarm bells, or it could have been leaked to try to secure the 5 votes that exist in that draft opinion right now. We really don't know at this time. What we do see is that the Chief Justice hasn't signed on to that draft opinion. And again, it is a draft and nothing more at this time. Now, why does that matter? Because we live in a state and in a region where access to abortion is well protected. In the state of Massachusetts, nothing about the law has changed in terms of shutting down access to abortion. In fact, quite the opposite. Right now, you have access to abortion in Massachusetts up to 24 weeks, i.e. the line of viability. And after that, abortion is still available to save the health or life of the pregnant person. And there are bills before the Massachusetts legislature right now that actually would make it easier for people who are vulnerable to get the care that they need. So things like helping to fund care and creating a space where people who may need to come from other states could come to Massachusetts and get the care that they need. So there are bills in Massachusetts right now that would actually expand and protect access to abortion at this time, but they're not the law yet either. Now it happens also that we live in a region where access to abortion is protected. And if I had a slideshow, I'd be showing you a map of the United States, and you would see that in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, access to abortion is decently protected by state laws, sometimes by state constitutions. So we live in a region where this kind of care is readily available. That may leave some of you wondering why you should care, and maybe wondering why your fire was lit in the first place. What is it that's upsetting about this draft opinion, and what exactly are we looking for in it? So let me just say a little bit about why your fire should be lit. Your fire should be lit because there are a number of reasons to question the analytical validity of the opinion as it's written. And we could take it apart on its historical merits and the fact that part of the opinion tries to undo the history that was written in Roe v. Wade, where the court tried to acknowledge that there's a long history of women needing access to abortion to be safe, and that in fact it wasn't regulated at all because this was the business of midwives, not physicians. Yet this draft opinion relies on physicians from the 13th century and the 18th century, when we didn't have electricity, when we didn't have anything more powerful than a musket, okay? The reasoning and reliance on history is frankly absurd. But what it's trying to do is entirely undermine Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the two decisions that undergird the right to privacy that protects access to abortion across the United States. In addition, the draft opinion completely takes apart the right to privacy. So let me talk about why this is problematic. Even though the draft opinion specifically states access to abortion is different from any other right protected by the Constitution because it implicates the right of another person, the right of the fetus to live, in the view of Justice Alito. Alito's opinion specifically states this is set to the side. We're carving out this right that's protected by the right to privacy, this right that is the right to access abortion within the physician-patient relationship. The trouble is, the opinion actually attacks the right to privacy writ large and says that it is not rooted in the history and tradition of the United States and therefore cannot be protected by the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment of the US Constitution. And so the problem with that is that the right to privacy is related to an entire web of rights. All of the rights related to our intimate relationships are interconnected in the jurisprudence of the Supreme Court. We can't just talk about what it means to access abortion. When we're thinking about the right to privacy, we're actually talking about an entire web of rights. We're thinking about the right to procreate, which has been protected since the early 1940s. We're thinking about the right to raise your children as you see fit, which has been protected since the early 1920s. We're thinking about the right to marry whomever you see fit, which has developed over time in the 1940s and the 1960s, and most recently in the Obergefell case, so that truly anybody can marry who they love. All of these intimate relationships are threatened by the reasoning of this draft opinion. And if it does become the decision of the Supreme Court, the right to abortion is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so if your fire is lit, let me throw fuel on that fire. It should be lit. Because even if you're a person who isn't worried about your own personal reproductive status, you should be worried about what this means for all of our intimate relationships. Now let me take that one step farther. If you're in the camp where you're not really sure why you should care, if I haven't convinced you already that all of our intimate relationships are potentially jeopardized by this draft opinion, remember this: when we're thinking about reproductive justice, we're not just thinking about access to abortion, even though it gets all of the light and heat. We're also thinking about maternal mortality. We're also thinking about infant and child mortality. We're also thinking about access to reproductive technologies that assist people in becoming pregnant and having healthy pregnancies. All of these kinds of reproductive justice are of one piece. And if you want everybody to have essential, safe health care, then you need to care about what's happening right now. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks again for coming. This is an amazing crowd. And what's amazing about this crowd is because so many of you are here today for someone you've never even met. And you're here today for a woman or someone who was born with the ability to reproduce in a state that you may not even visit. And that's amazing. So thank you for coming. When I told my mother-in-law that we were helping organize a women's march in 2020, she said, "I can't believe we're still marching for this crap." And I said that I could because I feel like we've always gotten it wrong before. We've always accepted these victories they've given us, but we've always left people behind. When we won the right to vote over 100 years ago, we left our Black and Indigenous sisters behind until the Voting Rights Act. When interracial marriage had its victory, we had to wait decades later for gay marriage. But we are getting so much smarter, and we're getting so much better at coming together and working together to fight and stand in solidarity to make sure that no one's left behind, and that's exactly what you're doing here today. You're here for our sisters in Texas and all the 27 other states that are at risk of losing the access if Roe v. Wade is overturned. And you're here for our black and brown sisters who face greater barriers and less access than the average white woman. You're here for the transgender community who's left behind in so many ways, for not just abortion access, but other rights that we've worked towards. And we're here for our sisters in other countries, and it's actually why we're wearing green here today. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge La Marea Verde. It's a green wave that started with a green scarf that is making its way through Latin American countries. And it started in Argentina, and it's carrying way through Colombia to give these women, these people born with the ability to reproduce, the access that they need. This is not a Scituate problem. This is not a United States problem. This is a country. This is not a single country problem. This is a world issue that predates any book or any law. It's a centuries-old mentality that people think that they have the right to tell someone what they can and cannot do with their bodies. That they have the right to tell someone who they can or cannot love, or that they have the right to tell someone who they are or who they aren't. But we're here today to take a stand, to be in solidarity for those who are going to lose the much needed access and the rights that we've worked hard for. And that's why we're here today. And it's time for the others to evolve as well. It's time for them to understand that this century-old thinking, it's outdated and it's wrong. And so we're here to tell them it's time for them to evolve, and that they can start by getting their bans off of our bodies. So get your bans off our bodies. Let me hear you guys. Get your bans off our bodies. So every time that green sign goes up, we want to hear you yell it. Get your bans off our bodies. Let's do it one more time. Get your bans off our bodies.
Trabule de nos corpos.
E lave como kanavai mavaho o ko'uhino.
Mio il corpo, mia la scelta.
Basta de controlarnos. Get your hands off our bodies. Meu corpo, minhas escolhas. Get your hands off our bodies.
Get your bans off our bodies.
Get your hands off our bodies.
Thank you. I want to take a minute to thank and welcome Danielle Ronkari. She's an OBGYN physician who's dedicated many hours this week to helping us get this rally together and is here to speak to you today.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming out today in support of reproductive rights. I don't usually speak out at rallies, obviously. I prefer to do my advocating in the patient exam room. But when something like the reversal of Roe v. Wade threatens to impact the lives of so many, I feel compelled to speak up. As an OBGYN physician, I've sat with many patients that have had to make the difficult choice to end a pregnancy. The 17-year-old who was afraid to go to the clinic to get birth control. The couple with a highly desired pregnancy that discovered there was a fetal anomaly. The patient that knew that she couldn't care for her another baby. Roe v. Wade and our Massachusetts state laws have allowed for my patients to have the freedom to make their own decisions about their bodies. Abortion restrictions are racist and disproportionately affect Black and brown, low-income and rural communities that already face systemic barriers to obtaining health care. Right now, even in Massachusetts, we see patients in our rural communities in the western part of the state and in our beautiful seaside communities here on the South Shore need to travel a great distance to obtain this care. We see patients that have no health insurance needing to come up with the funds to pay for an abortion, which often leads to a delay in their care. We see single mothers struggle to find childcare, or parents choosing between keeping their jobs or going to a needed medical appointment. In Massachusetts, we have an opportunity to be a leader in this fight for reproductive health equity. We need to pass legislation that protects our providers and our patients, provides funding for and underinsured people, and assists patients that must travel from out of state to access care. Abortion is health care, and abortion is a human right. Thank you.
Can you hear that? I know you feel it. Something's looming. Change is coming. And not the good kind either. But they don't want you to hear what they've done. They don't want you to know what they're planning, scheming, plotting, taking away. They want you to think there's no possible way they could turn back time on something so monumental, on something you thought was set in stone. They don't want you to know the power you hold. Because if you did, you wouldn't let it go. So the question is, will you?
I just want my song to keep going. I like that. Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Canfield. I'm a member of the Scituate Select Board, and somewhere out there is, thank you, is my colleague Maura Curran, and our other majority female board would be here, but she got stuck at the airport. So welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here. I want to just, before I make my remarks, which I did write down because I will forget the important things I want to say, but I want to just say a very big thanks to Freya and to Stephanie and to all the volunteers who pulled this together in a week. So if you join me, thank you guys. This community works when people come together, and this is a moment for all of us. I just want to start by saying that we all know Americans, our culture, we're doers. When something goes wrong, when there's an emergency or something we don't like, our instinct is to go and fix it. And I have to say, most of the women here, you know that we're the ones who typically take the lead in trying to fix things. When things are going okay, we get busy with other things. We caregive, we work more. We might volunteer, but we're going to volunteer for the fun stuff, not for the hard stuff, the challenging stuff. I get it. We all do it. But then something happens, and that's why we're here. Why did you show up? Why? Why are you wearing green? Why are you holding signs? Why did you choose to leave the beach on our first beach day to be here on Town Hall lawn? You're here, I would guess, like Nicole said, is you're mad. You're here because you feel powerless. I know I did when I heard the leaked news. And you're here because you want to fix it. So here's the bad news. This is not easy to fix. And make no mistake, protecting human rights, and that is what's at stake here, is a long game battle. Those who have succeeded in putting our rights at risk today have been working for years to fix this. Those who have worked to strip women of autonomy over their health decisions know exactly what they're working toward. They chipped away election by election, appointment by appointment, legislation by legislation, to get to us to this point. This is a victory for their work, and it, in my opinion, is a crisis for our country. Right now, there are 13 states, which has been alluded to, that have already passed so-called trigger laws. Sorry, had to put those down. So-called trigger laws that are poised to strip women of the reproductive rights should Roe v. Wade be struck down. And also, I just said thank you to Nicole for the little primer on how the whole law thing works, because that's going to be useful in the fight to come. There are another 13 states that are ready to sign similar laws. That's 26 states. The majority of states in our country are ready to revert to classifying women as second-class citizens. You should be mad. You should be scared. And you should want to fix this. Now, as is pointed out, we're kind of lucky. We live in Massachusetts, and we live in Scituate. We have, for the most part, legislators that are working hard to protect all human rights, including women's reproductive rights. We also live in a town that we have resources. And if we have to face difficult choices about our personal reproductive rights, we can probably address them. But as was pointed out, we cannot look away. We cannot ignore the women in our country who will not be so lucky. We cannot ignore the next steps that are sure to come. Stripping away rights and protections of others. Walking away from the needs of those who do not look like us and do not think of us as a matter of policy. That's where we're headed. Now the good news, now that I brought you all down. You all can make a difference. You can use your anger and your fear, and you can begin the hard work of shifting the momentum and fighting for our rights. How do we do that? Where do we begin? Today you showed up. You wore green. You're holding signs. That's huge. So yay. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow, you can go and you can Google all of those 26 states, and you can find out what candidates are running to protect human rights, and you can send them $5 if you got $5. If you don't, you can join a letter writing campaign, because your voice can be heard throughout the nation to protect rights, not just here, but throughout the nation. But here's where you can make an immediate and lasting difference. Vote, and do not stop voting. Do your work, find out who wants to represent you, and make damn sure that they're going to represent your values when you go to that polling box. This matters absolutely at every level. Whether you come out to vote for me next week, or to say we'll get back to tomorrow next week's election. Whether you're voting for your state rep, whether you're voting for your federal senator, or whether you're voting for president, just do the work. If you don't learn and you don't vote, you abdicate your rights and your voice to others who very well might not have your values, will bring us further than where we are today. So, as I mentioned, next Saturday, we have our town election. We have a contested, I'm not contested, so thank you for your support. We do have a contested school committee race. I know that one of the candidates is here. Carrie's right there waving. And whether you have students in the system or not, you should care who is leading the discussion about how to prioritize our educational goals for our kids. So go talk to Carrie, find out what she wants to bring to the system, what she offers for kids. Go online, watch the YouTube videos, thank you, Seth, that he produced of each of the candidates, and make them earn your vote. Know what they stand for, know what they intend to do for our community, and then make sure you go vote. All right, one more thing. And don't stop with that. We have midterm elections. I think everybody here on this lawn knows what's at stake here. And our state elections locally will result in a new governor, a new attorney general, and many other really important positions. And these positions matter. They will lead policy that will protect your rights, or not. And you need to do the work on that. Know who shares your values, donate to their campaigns, hold signs, but most important, show up and vote. That is how we fix this. Do not look away. Do not become complacent. We are also blessed in this country to have vote that really matters. And if you want to protect your rights, use your rights and go vote. Our next speaker here. Okay. All right. I was supposed to introduce our last speaker. I think that she's stuck in traffic, so I'm turning it over to the great Emily. Who am I? So thank you again for all being here. And next.
Okay. We're going to see if a little gaff tape doesn't fix this mic problem. Check, check. Hey, hey. Check. All right. Let's see how well that works. Hi, my name is Emily Matthews, and I don't normally ever get a microphone except to make sure it's working. So this is something that makes me super uncomfortable talking to all of you. But I think we're all in a pretty uncomfortable place right now. So I think you know how I'm feeling in a lot of ways. So first, let's just take a moment before we talk about our call to action. And I want you to stop and look around at all of the people. If you're sitting in the front, turn around and look at the back. If you're in the back, wave at the people in the front. And if you have a sign, hold it up, please. And hold it up long enough for everyone to be able to see it. I thought that was a really good idea until it made me cry. And now I'm crying and I'm trying to talk. Thank you for that. So in your program that we asked you to scan early on, there is a link with our call to action section. And what we would like to have happen, when we envisioned this entire thing, was we imagined everybody could click on that link right now, and we could do something right now, here, all together, collectively. And if you open the program and you scroll down to the call to action section, you can see that there are 4 different things you can do right now, this moment, aside from being here with us today. You can join Planned Parenthood advocacy efforts. There are multiple organizations to donate to. I'm standing here with the microphone, but I didn't know that there was an Eastern Massachusetts abortion fund. I don't know if anybody else, is there anybody else that didn't know that existed? We should all donate to them today. You can educate yourself. There are 2 links there to help us amplify abortion access. Providers and health care centers. Click on those links. Educate yourself about how a person can get an abortion locally here. What are the necessary steps to do that? You can share your story. We have 2 ways of doing that. You can connect with Planned Parenthood if you have a story you want to share with them, or you can share a story with our legislators, again, who are very supportive, but they still need to hear our stories. We should never stop telling our stories. Finally, as Karen said, vote and don't stop voting. If you have a phone and you can put it in your calendar, you live in Scituate, make sure you put in your calendar right now that you're coming down to the high school gymnasium next Saturday and voting. Are there any other ways that what can we do right now? Does anybody else have something that they would like to share? What do you want to share?
The Green Alliance is based in New York City.
Green Alliance?
Green. B-R-I-G-I-D.
B-R-I.
G-I-D.
G-I-D.
Alliance. They fund travel.
They fund travel. Okay.
To abortion.
Great. Thank you. All right, so you've listened to me. Can we take a great motivational song? And you can, at least if nothing else, you guys, will you click through my Google Doc that I've spent a really long time? More time than I think I should have. And read what we have.
Okay, everyone, thank you for taking the time to do that. And thank you all for coming. Mara and Karen are here to answer any questions you might have about our ballot coming up next Saturday, the 21st at Town Hall. We have a vote. Please vote. Vote for clean water. And thank you so much for coming to our event today. We appreciate it.